Alright, this video is going to be a response to some coaching stuff I've seen going around, and generally why I think a lot of these points have some merit but end up not necessarily holding up under further scrutiny. I'm going to start with kind of just like an overview of this first video, a response to the second video, and then go into looking at one pro replay and then looking at this replay, which is the same 3v3 replay that this coach goes over in this video. So the first thing that this video does is looking at an RLCS replay from Falcons versus K Corp. I'm not sure which event this is from.
Already with the K-Corp strat,
but
they're trying the exact thing.
Immediately you'll notice things like Rise cutting in here being a good play. But if I remember correctly, you will hear from the coach.
Going here, just needs to leave. Got no boost, buddy. Rotating ball side into the play. They're not helping.
Yes. So you'll hear something there. I don't know how loud that is in the recording. Along the lines of, Rise, you need to leave. You have no boost. You are not helping. In this position, obviously Rise does have no boost off of kickoff.
So leave.
But there are two options here. So with Atto playing this ball the way he does into the corner like this, you have two options. Either Atto chases it and follows here to try to contest Roas, which Roas will beat both of them here. He will likely be the one getting to the ball first. So he is going to chase this way, and your two options are to have Atto chase him down with the little bit of boost that he has currently, and have Rise try to pick up pads, go wide, play behind, and play off of Atto, or you have Rise cut with the no boost that he has to disrupt Roas, so that Atto can play off of him with boost. Personally, I prefer the play of having Rise cut this and having Atto with the boost that he has play off of it, because Rise should be able to get possession away from Roas, and Atto should get essentially free ball, and should have plenty of space. Clears will be kind of trying to clear this gap here. TRK is still going to need to find some boost and find a position. Vatira is out of this play. No boost. He's going to take too long to get back. So it's really on these two to hold this down. And I think that the best chance that they have to do that is for Rise to create pressure first and Atto to take over with boost after and play it into the space that he should have off of this kickoff. You'll see a lot of things like this, but this part of the video is all analysis of this game. The next section is the Vatira point of view and going into why this coach believes that Vatira is the best Rocket League player in the world. I disagree, but there is an argument to be made for Vatira. He is a very solid player. And then this section and where's the other one? And this section are both just bullying Atto. Atto is one of the best players in the world right now, and arguably arguably the focal point of this K Corp team. He enables a lot of their play style to work. He enables how they're able to play. If you look on my channel, you'll also see a video about K Corp when they first started to show some cracks at the end of the first split, kind of what was happening and how they play. But Vatira and Rise like to play off of each other a lot, and Atto will generally play more of a contain and that deep third position in order to hold pressure, but he's not afraid to play aggressively and make aggressive decisions. So he is a very good player in his own right, and then the other sections that I skipped over for now, but we will get back to, are replay review of their own games, these two 3v3 games, and one of them, the first one here, is the one that I will take a look at later in this video. Now the second video, he starts by addressing a bunch of comments that were left under this first video, main point that was argued in the response to the comments, the part that I really have a problem with is how much Nowak, who's the one doing the coaching in these replays, believes that the only reason that pros are pros is their mechanical ability. And he makes the claim that if you took a random diamond player and gave them Zen's mechanics, that player would be a pro. Which it turns into the meme of the Bugatti parked next to a mobile home of, sure, a diamond with Zen's mechanics is great, but they're still a diamond. They're not going to be fast enough. They're not going to be in the correct positions. They're not going to read the play correctly. So sure, have all the mechanics you want. If you're not in a position to play with them, you are not going to get anything done. Now, on to their actual argument, the points that they use. The first claim that they use is that slow play is a recipe for
Okay.
and
what
so
are we watching?
Where's the statistics that they go through? They show this Johnny Boy video where he talks about the slowest and the fastest games that happened in this past RLCS year. So this sure is a trend that shows that the slowest players generally had very high win rates, but it's not necessarily a cut and dry situation. A lot of the fast players come from the minor regions where just the competition isn't as strong in the first place. Namely, I believe the fastest on the whole year was Banana Head, coming from OCE, where their competition, they made a good run at Worlds, but the competition is just not quite the same caliber. And then the slower players here, while they do have the higher win rates, are generally having higher win rates because they are keeping possession of the ball. Not to do with the speed that they are actually playing at, but the best players in the world are the ones that keep possession of the ball. The best example of this, in my opinion, is is Beast Mode. Monkey Moon is I'll get to later. But he's another example of a slow play. He's an example of a slow player who does it well. So he would also, Monkey Moon is a good example of a slow player who plays behind the ball, controls the ball well, plays with his team, and it has results. He's won Worlds twice. They just won this past year. They were the best team in the world at that event. But Beast Mode is a fast player who keeps control of the ball. And if you look at G2's results, they made all 9 grand finals that they were eligible for in this past RLCS year. Both playstyles had their success. Slow and controlled made it to, they won Worlds. They missed some of the other, grand finals, had some underwhelming results, but came through when it mattered. And G2, with their fast play, and specifically Beast Mode, with the way that he controlled the ball and played on those solo plays, created a lot of opportunities to the point where they made all 9 grand finals. They only won, as far as international competition, they only won Major 2, losing to Gentlemates in the first Major and obviously BDS in the World Championship. But the speed of the play was much higher than the majority of teams in the world. But they were still winning because they were keeping possession of the ball, which is the opposite of this claim with saying slow equals win. Playing slow is, in this situation, doesn't necessarily equal win. Playing controlled equals win. Controlling the ball is where it comes from. So yes, these stats correlate to high win rates, but they correlate to high win rates because of the control of the ball, which is what's not shown here. Then he goes on to show this same point in pro gameplay and his own gameplay, which again, that would just be more of me addressing the same point. So we'll move past that for now. His evidence 3 is G2's poor positioning. So G2 has definitely a very different rotational style from any other team. This replay, and specifically that he picks, I don't love picking old replays like this. I'm not going to try to defend them saying, oh, it was a bad event. Oh, this was just a bad game. I don't know. I know this was from the major. I don't know which game it was. Frankly, it doesn't matter. This gameplay at this point was from around 6 months ago. This G2 at this point then had all of that time to work on and fix a lot of the issues that they had in this. So that's why when I take a look at at replays, I'm going to pull from the World Championship, which is the most recent, most at the high level gameplay that we have. I could obviously try to find some scrims or some other tournament, but they are going to be playing their best at the World Championship. That's when they are playing the most in their best form that we would be going for. But the main points that are made about the G2 positioning is that Nowak takes the issue that they play too aggressively. He takes the issue that their second man plays very far forward, their third man even positions aggressively, and they generally have a very aggressive play style that does have some weaknesses, but also has a lot of strengths and plays to their individual skills. And then the last point made in this video is about playing behind the ball versus in front of the ball. The behind the ball example is this Ocalid gameplay, which if I pick a random point, so I'm not just cherry picking, trying to just find where some gameplay is happening. Here we go. We'll just see that a lot of this time they spend pinned on defense. So they're back on defense, then immediately, so they break out. Then he's playing so passively, takes a 50. This is them breaking out into offense, which if he keeps cutting back, we'll see. Basically, any point I pick, they're on defense. So it's not necessarily a bad play style, but it leaves you to get pressured a lot. And under any amount of pressure, you're going to eventually crack if you don't get out at all. If you're just stuck, if you're not getting the boost that you need, if you're not getting the ball clear and creating offensive pressure, you are going to get stuck. So this positioning and this play style can work, but it's not the only way to play. Playing behind the ball like this is great when you are third man or you're trying to play supportive, but in this section where Atto is playing more aggressive, and he labeled it playing in front of the ball. But in this whole section where he's playing more aggressive, you'll see, yes, it's a little harder for him to play. He might not have as much boost all the time. But as a team, they're breaking out more into offense and being able to create a play. He's going back here because he doesn't like that he rushes this touch, which is purely just from a misread of how fast this ball was going to go. If he stayed wider, he would have easily had time. But he couldn't quite get there. But you see, he has to play with this space because of how aggressively Vatira and Rise are positioned. So he plays here to support, and he cuts off the ball and keeps pressure for his team. So you have to have some aggressive play, but you also need to know when to have passive play. Both both have their own merits. They both have had success. And I'll take the chance to say this now. I probably should have said it at the beginning of the video. Maybe I'll add a section to the beginning of the video where I add this as well. There is no one correct way to play the game. There is only the way that works best for the situation that you are in. So what that means is that each team is going to have a slightly different play style based on your individual skill sets. You're going to have a different play style in tournaments and playing with a team than you will in ranked, even with a stack in ranked, but especially solo queued in ranked. You're not going to be able to play the same because it's a different environment. And then for this, the issue that I have and why I'm really making this video is that there's some misinformation with this where there are things that are getting overlooked and important concepts that are kind of being taken just the wrong way. And obviously it's getting views. This is 270 views in 2 days. This has almost 900 in the last roughly 2.5 weeks. If it's getting views, people are consuming this content. And I just kind of want to set straight why there are a lot of points that to be made here that have some merit, but aren't necessarily backed up with the correct information or made or the wrong conclusion is drawn from some of the right information. So I'm going to start with the Karmine Corp versus G2 series. This was from the semifinals at the World Championship. I'm not going to cherry pick. I'm not taking the G2 6-1 game. I'm actually going to look at game 2, which was the closest game. It's the one that went into overtime. And you'll notice that I pick a G2 versus K-Corp game. These are both the teams that Nowak had issue with. Personally, in this replay, I will look at both teams. I'm going to start off looking at G2, then I'll shift over to K-Corp, which is where he was talking about, Atto. He didn't like Atto's playstyle, but he was a big fan of how Vatira played. But first, let me put this into borderless so I can have my pen. So, before I start, the ideas of how each of these teams run. G2 plays very aggressively. So say their first man is playing a play here on the offensive half. Their second man is generally going to be positioned almost even, if not sometimes even in front of their first man with the ball, playing across for some opportunity for a pass or for anything collecting off here to cause chaos on a demo if this player chooses a solo play. And that's something you'll see a lot, is that if this player on the ball here is beast mode, you'll see Atomic a lot come through, clear out space, and then cut back in off of beast mode's play and generally keep up pace. Meanwhile, Daniel will play further back, more like here, almost basically in a vertical line with whoever has the ball up here, and they'll play generally some structure that looks something like this, where this guy has the ball, this guy's either going demo or cut to follow, and this player is playing all of this space back. He is denying the clear. If something were to come out this way, if the ball comes out this way after this player has already gone to cut, then he'll play on that ball. But generally speaking, they're very aggressively positioned, which the weakness of a play style like this is that it leaves some open space here to play with. And generally, if you're able to land a beat, then you generally will get a little bit of breathing room. So that's really where this team kind of will start to struggle, is if they're not quite able to break through on their solo plays, or if at any point they are forced to play either ping pong or bang ball, whatever you want to call it, where they're just playing big clears. But so if we start just watching an overhead view, you'll see right off the bat, right, Rise gets that boost steal on Daniel. Beast Mode's pre-jumping this in order to try to force something. And with the ball that far off, they're going to kind of start to try to set up. Atto still has pressure, but you'll notice Beast Mode immediately onto the back wall. Daniel's covering the low. Beast Mode has the high. Atto's getting nothing from this play. And so you'll see Rise is already on the rotate out. And if we look where he was just a second ago, right, he just made that pinch, lands on the backboard. Vatira honestly here is playing probably too close, which is why you'll start seeing him bail out. Because then this play now threatens to clear over Atto if Atomic is able to land this beat. Which obviously, since we just saw the play, he can't get there. Vatira is playing support, and he's playing close because Atto has possession. So now Beast Mode, able to land a beat, still has possession. Atomic's going to grab pads and play third. Okay, this is an interesting play. I'm not going to say it's correct. This is weird. They're not set up well. Beast Mode kind of left to fend for himself. Good cut from Atomic to get this ball off of Rise. Daniel already covering this. Completely fine. Beast Mode in position to make a cut. Very good offensive pressure so far from K-Corp to start out. But we see G2 already takes possession. There goes Atomic. Beast Mode playing a close second. So now he's immediately on this to follow up. He's taking possession. Daniel's now the close second. And he forces the ball off. Beast Mode, again, this is that cut across that I mentioned before that they like to play. So here, Daniel forces first. Atomic is shadowing this. He can make this challenge, but Beast Mode is able to win it cleanly around Vatira to get some breathing room. So now Atomic circles back to try to play off of this. I'm not sure here if this is a misread or if he leaves this on purpose for some reason. Could be comms thing, or it's just a misread. Let's see. Yeah, he didn't see it because of the demo smoke and just couldn't read it correctly. Which, again, we're all human. You don't expect every play to be perfect. But so now they have pressure, right? They're on offense. So how does their offense look? Obviously, Daniel just got demoed. We just saw Atomic go there. We see Beast Mode buying time. And very smart play here from Beast Mode, not taking this towards net, right? It looks initially like he might have messed up his setup and is avoiding them because he can't get there. But Beast Mode knows here that Atomic just committed and Daniel just died. So he's on his own, and he has Vatira here. Atow's coming down the backboard, but he was positioned there. Rise was positioned on the back ball. So most likely what would have happened is either Vatira forces, and then Attow and Rise clean it up where they have basically everything covered, or Attow forces, Vatira holds low, Rise holds the high. Most likely from this position, because he's in the front, Vatira is going to force. But Beast Mode, since he chooses to play this back this way, he risks a bad 50, but he buys his team time, and it doesn't. It guarantees at least a chance at possession. He just doesn't throw away the possession. So he brings out this way, and Daniel's able to cut in immediately and keep up pressure. So then Daniel on a cut in again, or Atomic cuts in, keeps up pressure. Beast Mode already there, and you'll see this really nice spacing that they get, where Beast Mode's playing the ball here. You have Atomic coming nice and wide, has an angle to cut in at any time he needs to. You have Daniel here playing behind Beast Mode. Rise is positioned here to clear it this way, so Daniel's positioning to be able to collect this clear if it goes this way. If it 50s straight down, he can just turn in like this. He's in a great position to follow up whatever happens next. Obviously barring some execution error, but they're in a very good position right now. A lot of space covered where essentially Atomic is able to cover like all of this space if he has to. He can play any ball that pops out there. Daniel's playing for anything in front of him like this, and if this were to somehow pinch back, he very easily can turn this way and get back in time. So very nice positioning from the G2 offense. Yeah, so now Beast Mode goes low, Daniel plays close, and then Atomic able to win another 50. This is kind of what tripped up G2 a lot of the time, is ending up too close together like this. It's a mistake that happens a lot for when teams try to play this fast, and it's what they ultimately ended up getting caught out for at the end of this event, was that they would get caught out for not keeping their space, because that wide space that they had on that last play was amazing for them. They were not going to concede anything there. They were going to keep up pressure, but then once they get kind of on top of each other, which is most likely a comms issue, you kind of see that weakness start to come through. And then now I will transition. We're not going to do the whole game because I don't want to make this video an hour long. But we'll watch now some from the K-Corp side, and we'll see again this same spacing. Two very different teams in their play styles, but generally a lot of the same rotational ideas. You'll see this same space coverage where Attow's playing the ball. Vatira is a little closer than, I believe Daniel was the one who was playing second man for G2 on that last play, but still playing in a position to be able to play a lot of this space. Rise playing out over this way, able to play a lot of this left side of the field. They have very good spatial coverage here. So we see Atomic starts to play this ball to the side. Rise immediately starts to cover it. Daniel plays it out this way, and we see what happens here is Attow's on the low boost. He's going to rotate this way. Maybe look for a bump on Atomic. Might be a little greedy, but depending on where Atomic goes, could be an option. Rise is going to pressure this ball. If Attow is able to, he can try to turn if this ball 50s favorably for them. Otherwise, Vatira is playing here. He will be the most likely to follow up off of Rise as Attow comes back. Probably grabs a couple of pads or goes for the mid boost, which he really shouldn't because Rise just took it. So he should know that it's gone. There should be a level of communication where he knows that that boost is not there. So if we see what happens, Rise plays the ball. Okay, there is either is not that level of communication or he thinks that he's got something better if he plays back, but you see still he doesn't go all the way back. He's still playing here to help keep pressure. So now that happens. Vatira was playing close. Rise loses the ball here, and Atau is already back to make a play here. Vatira again second man, and now it's his time to make a play, but Atomic's already breaking out, and now he's going to force back. So Vatira, as good of a player as he is, was a complete non-factor in that play. Was never really able to do anything, because what he would do a lot, if I go back to the beginning of that play where this happens, right, he pushed in very close, then had to rotate out here, and then if I let it play, he turns back in, then has to turn back out. So he very much is just going push in, rotate out, push in, rotate out. He never actually makes an impact on the play in this play. Is that saying that he's not an impactful player in general? No, but he was not doing what he needed to in that play, and that's where you'll see them lose pressure, because he wasn't really a factor there. So now they're stuck on defense for a little bit. And so generally the way that K-Corp like to play is you'll see a lot of plays like this, where Atau was playing for aggressive as first man, Rise on a very aggressive second man. Rise has a tendency to play a very, very aggressive second man. He will play very close. He's very small pad heavy on his boost. He is very good with his recoveries and being able to play make on low boost. That is where he's his strongest. So he plays a very aggressive second man. Vatira here is the one that was third man because he was grabbing some boost. Now you can see he's at about half. He has a lot of space covered, and he is generally playing to support these two. So they have a lot of coverage, but they have their coverage slightly differently. What we saw with G2 was a coverage where the first man would be playing the ball, the second man would be playing either a close follow like this, or a wide follow here, or sometimes even wider than that, across and trying to cover that way. And then the third man would be playing in line with the ball. But the thing we always saw with G2 was, regardless of where the second man played, the third man was always vertically in line with the ball. With K-Corp instead, they play their third man diagonally away from the ball, which allows for easy rotation if a big clear were to go over the two players that are there, and also allows for anything coming out across the field in the midfield to be an easy pickup for this player. So both playstyles have their merits. Both generally do well, but as we saw with G2, a lot of their faults came from playing too close together. Like if they would ever have comms issues, end up jumbled on top of each other, and once they have that, they're letting up pressure because there's no one to go for the ball right away. K-Corp, when they struggled, generally struggled on this third man getting isolated. So what would happen is a play would beat out these two, and there would end up being two opponents, so one here with the ball, and then one generally trailing across this way, playing against the one defender. So whether that turned into a demo play, a solo play, a passing play, doesn't matter. That's what they got punished for a lot. And you'll see that, again, I mentioned I don't like going back to old replays, but a great example of it was from Qualifier 3 for the first major, where Vitality made that exact adjustment against K-Corp. So what they would do is they would beat out the two close players, and then they would send Radosin to go demo the third, who at that point in the season, their third a lot of the time was Atto, playing very deep, and ended up getting demoed a lot. K-Corp proceeded to drop 2 games in a row, then they called their timeout, and then they proceeded to win the next 3 and take the series. So they were able to adjust to it, but generally that was the punishing play style to play against them, was to try and isolate and play against that third man if you were able to deal with the first 2. Now, going to this last replay, this was from Nowak, the coach, who was talking about all the other issues, and I wanted to take a look at some of this gameplay, where there were some things that he pointed out that were pretty good, and then there were a handful of things that just kind of got glossed over that I think needed to be addressed. Also, Nowak, if you're still watching this at this point, this is the worst replay point of view I've ever seen. Just follow somewhere where you can actually get a good perspective of the replay. Just, it's whatever, it's your choice, but just without moving from that spot, you lose a lot of vision. Anyway, that point aside, so we're fine on the kickoff here. This is good. Good positioning so far. And what makes this good positioning is that we have Nowak here following on pads, able to cover the midfield area. We have Wamplet on the backboard, able to contest this play or just generally cover anything high. And we have OT Boy in net, still far enough towards the back post that he can cover anything low here. So this is very good positioning right off the bat. So again, as we see, Wamplet's able to get that play across to Nowak. Free ball. Bangs the ball out, gets the clear. Now, I was harping on Vatira for doing this a little bit, but we see OT Boy here. You kind of just I missed the pen. There you go. Push in and turn around. It's just a waste of resources and a waste of your rotation, because now you're going to have to take the time to get back into position by going up and then having to turn back and get into a position, versus seeing the direction this play is going. Right, Nowak just passed up this way, Wamplet's coming across like this, and just kind of understanding that you're most needed. You were on a good line here, but just stay somewhere around here in this area. You can follow these pads. I wouldn't go any further than this one, but just you should be playing support here, and you should be playing in a position to follow this play. And then this is something that Nowak touches on in the video, is that it is good here on OT Boy to leave this boost. However, what happens next is not as good. So what we can see here is Weasler playing the ball across into this space, right? And if I let this go forward, OT Boy half flips out while leaving this boost for Nowak. However, had he been playing in a better position from the beginning, he would be in a good position to contest this space and play this ball. Obviously, in the moment, he doesn't know that OG has no boost, but with momentum here coming from a better position, this should be a win all day, regardless of how much boost OG has, because this ball is kind of coming from behind him. He's got a bit of an awkward angle, at least in comparison to OT Boy, who has a very straight-on angle. So half flipping here completely gives up all of this space, which is a very big mistake that a lot of players make. So now we see the exact, OG kind of just bangs the ball away, but a more competent player will actually do something with it. What happened here? Why isn't Nowak controlling this? Because this is a ball that should be controlled, right? As we've talked about, or as I mentioned earlier, and we'll see kind of here as well, possession is what wins games. So here Nowak gets essentially a safe touch into his corner, but it's not one that he can follow right away, so they immediately, the other team finds the ball middle, and then you break out right away anyway, but it's from a bad play from the defense and not because of a good play, a bad play from the blue team, not because of a good play from the orange team. Wow, I cannot speak right now. So again, we see a structure start to form. This is good. We have the space covered. Nowak should go first. Wamplet's covering the space. Okay, or we're going to give up the space again. It's fine again because they don't do anything, but there's just a lot of dropped space in playing like this. And now here we just kind of don't have much coverage, like OT Boy being way too far back here. Nowak just kind of, you're in a decent spot, but you have no momentum, so you're kind of going to be out here anyway. Blue team's kind of all over the place as well, but so you take that 50, but you should have been there faster because you should have been there with momentum. But now you guys are in a good position, except for the fact, well, first of all, OT Boy, mechanical mistakes are mechanical mistakes, whatever. Even if he manages to win out this ball, both Nowak and Wamplet are rotating back at the same time. And what that leads to is OT Boy having to play essentially by himself for a bit until they can get into a position to help. which is going to happen sometimes naturally, but shouldn't happen on a play like this when you start out with near perfect spacing. Obviously, the mechanical mistake is what directly leads to the goal, but when you have near perfect spacing on that play, you should never be conceding like that with two people caught too far upfield like that. The spacing was great, but with two people being stuck in the same rotation is not good. Now there needs to be pressure on this ball faster, so this happens here. Nowak going wide for this boost is probably a mistake, just considering the fact that Wamplet here he's getting a bad 50, which obviously is hard to say in general that then going wide is an issue. But the first mistake here is OT Boy going left, right? So the way that this cheat works is that Nowak goes for the ball, Wamplet cheats forwards, and OT Boy goes behind Nowak here. And the reason that you go behind the guy on kickoff, unless this is a calmed kickoff strat, which, by the way the ball went this way, I'm going to guess it is not. It is much easier for this player to force the ball behind him, and you can play possession, which is one of your biggest advantages that you can have if you are queued with people, is to just play the ball back, take possession immediately, and just create play from there. What you would end up doing is that this player does more of a soft cheat, where you'll cheat up maybe to like here instead of a full cheat, trying to go through the ball. But you'll play a softer cheat. This player goes here. Nowak then forces the ball back like this. OT Boy gets free possession. Wamplet should have some boost to play off of him, and you have a very good starting position. The other way to play this normally is you can play a kill, so where Nowak goes and tries to dead 50 the ball right here. Wamplet will play an aggressive cheat, and OT Boy will grab this boost, and instead of trying to turn upfield and play with it, we'll grab this boost and turn back in case the play doesn't go how we are planning for. So, simple kickoff mistake. But what it leads to is that now OT Boy, well, first of all, didn't get the boost, but is now on the wrong side of the field, to where when this 50 happens, he's not there to follow it up right away, and the space gets dropped. So that's a lot of the issue that I have. I'll go through a little more of this replay, but I already have generally seen the points that I have issue with. Wamplet playing back post here it's not necessarily wrong, but there's really no reason that you can't be playing front post here, because you have OT Boy who's rotating in to cover behind you. He might be a little slow because he's on no boost, but you still have very little threat around here, right? The threat is that a play happens here, say Weasler beating Nowak, something like that happens, or a 50 in the wall and Juicy gets a play, where now they have a play and they have this space now that Nowak is committed, where Wamplet now has to take the extra time to cover this distance versus being here already and being able to just come out and make the play. So, subtle difference, but what should be happening here is that as this play is developing, Wamplet should have been coming forward, OT Boy will rotate in. I would like to see him grab pads and kind of play somewhere around here. And the reason I think it's fine to play out here instead of on the back post is that you can still cover this space easy enough from a position more like this, but it also allows you easy coverage of the midfield, where now Wamplet can be playing kind of watching out like this. He can follow confidently in the corner and play more confidently knowing that his midfield is already covered by this third man, and Nowak is already playing the ball. So Nowak playing the ball here would have this covered. Wamplet pushing up to front post would be covering this space, and then OT Boy rotating in and playing around here covers the rest of the space. So you have everything covered in a position like that. However, waiting passive on this back post, you're safe, but you open up a lot of space. And that's really the main issue that I have with Nowak's coaching in general, what the points that he makes, and also just general mistakes that happen a lot in threes, is that a lot of players are leaving open a lot of space. So threes, yes, it's a game of pressure, but in order to create and sustain that pressure, you need to have good controlled space. So overall, addressing the let me see, if I missed any of the points that were made to me, especially in Discord as well from Nowak. Yeah, so of course I'm going to say something that diamonds with pro mechs being semi-pros would be a bad take. Yes, because they're diamonds. We just watched Nowak's gameplay, which this was him playing on an alt account and losing in a Champ 1 lobby, yet talking about how bad pro play is and saying that diamonds with mechs would be pros. But if I, right now, I have not looked at these replays ahead of time. If I go to replays, all replays in standard 3v3, just anywhere in diamond. So if we're saying that diamonds are better, or a diamond with mechs would be a pro. Let's just take a look at what diamond rotations and game sense look like. I haven't seen this replay at all, so we'll see what happens. And right off the bat, this kickoff is something to behold. So this player goes right away. And now we'll see all three players from the blue team creep in here. We have 6 players in one corner here. Now we have some space, but hey, look, no one's even near the ball. So yes, I do think that a diamond with pro mechs would not be a pro or a semi-pro, or even realistically any higher than GC. A diamond with mechanics is still a diamond. So sure, as much as you want to say, and the main points that I've seen you make as well twice, Nowak, without showing every, as I don't know what anyone said, I don't want to go looking through everything on the recording, is that you have issue with the amount of double commits, over commits, lack of team play, team bumps, boost starving each other in pro play. And your argument is that I am seeing them do all of those things and say that they're playing optimally. No, they're not playing optimally. But they're playing a hell of a lot better than diamonds. The amount of double commits, over commits, all that, the majority comes from 2 things. The first is a lack of communication. This game happens too fast, and there is too much that changes in such a short period of time to be able to say that there aren't going to be communication mistakes. They're going to happen. No team is going to have perfect comms, because what you just communicated to your team 3 seconds ago might already be irrelevant information. And the other thing that it comes down to is that players are human. There are going to be execution mistakes. There are going to be game sense mistakes. There are going to be overcommits. It's going to happen. And any amount of game plan isn't going to stop humans from being human. There are going to be mistakes made. So if your point is, yes, pros are not playing the game optimally, no, they're not. But the reason that they're not playing the game optimally isn't because they have no brains and all mechs. It's because they are human. They make 99% correct decisions in a game. And it's the 1% is what separates good teams from great teams, and the great teams from world champions. These pro teams, on their when they double commit and they overcommit, they're mistakes. And they, in scrims and in replay reviews during all their coaching, are working on not doing that. But again, when they are human, and this game happens as fast as it does, it's going to happen. What was the other point that you brought up? Every piece of evidence supporting everything you've said. Not quite entirely. Again, if we look at any of these, like if we look, I don't even know, but you were looking at the slow players being like slow equals win. I don't know. Let's take the World Championship. I haven't looked at this specific stat. Maybe it'll just straight up show me that this take is wrong. But if I sort by average speed, which is going to take a second, and look at the slowest players, yeah, there are a lot of wins here. But also, if we look at the results, we see Alpine went out top 8. Oxygen had a good finish in top 6. But then the other teams down here, OG went out in Swiss, Gen G went out in Swiss. Obviously, BDS won the World Championships. Pioneers out in Swiss, Secret out in Swiss. We've already talked about the other ones. G2, grand finalists. So if we're looking at games, yeah, there are a lot of wins on the very slowest, but there are also a lot of losses on the slow end too. And basically, most of these players, even like the best results out of any of them, is BDS, obviously. They won the event. There's a couple of them down here, but the vast majority of the people who are playing these slower speeds went out in Swiss or at the beginning of playoffs in top 8. If I flip the speed, what are we going to see? This I'm interested in. Okay, OG again went out in Swiss, but we have Falcons who made top 4. We have a lot of Falcons games. We have a lot of bad teams too. We have Gladiators. We have one game from, where's the other one? I mean, OG, we had talked about. Vitality went out in Swiss. Generally a good team, but underperformed. Gen G out in Swiss. But K Corp top 4. G2 grand finalist. More Falcons games top 4. K Corp again top 4. So a lot of these fast teams placed higher than a lot of the slow teams. It's just a generalization. Your speed on the field has very little to do with what the players are actually doing and with their win rate. Meanwhile, if we look at the positioning, with what you were talking about is percent behind ball, was one of your biggest points. The most behind the ball players are some of the best players in the world. Archie, Zen, Oski, Killers, Monkey Moon, more Zen, Seiko, Daniel. But if you look, they're all winning their games. The people playing behind the ball and playing possession is the big thing. Obviously, CJ lost, but it's so many wins. They're playing possession. So again, that is why playing behind the ball and playing slower wins a lot of these games. So I'm not disagreeing with everything that you're saying. Playing behind the ball is great, but there are also times where you need to be willing to play in front of the ball. Obviously, a lot of these are going to show a lot of losses because a lot of the time it's overextending. But what ends up happening is that, again, if you look at these players, you have Beast Mode, you have Drawley, you have JNaps, you have Archie, Yan, Atto, more Beast Mode, Alpha. You have a lot of very good players on this list too. So, in general, yes, there are a lot of losses playing in front of the ball. But if you look at the series, these are aggressive players playing hard-fought series. That's what they do. That is how they play, and that is their identity as a team. So, yes, playing behind the ball creates a lot of possession for your team and a lot of pressure, which is why they win a lot. But the reason that pressure is threatening is because of the people who are willing to play aggressive and play in front of the ball. You need both. Both have to exist. If everyone played behind the ball, then you would have no pressure. If everyone played in front of the ball, that's all you would have. You would have no defense. So there needs to be a balance between them, where yes, the people who play more behind the ball have great results and are very good players. So that is the reason why it is a good thing. Your argument in this as to playing behind the ball was that it's simple and that it's easy to play. But you didn't elaborate on why that is. it is simple and easy to play. It is easy to play because you are getting possession. You are playing possession and getting better touches because you have more time and better setups. And it is simple because you can see the whole field in front of you and take in the most amount of information. That is why it works. So, I've probably, in a lot of text messages and in Discord and in YouTube comments, have come across very aggressively. I'm not saying you are entirely 100% wrong in everything you talk about. But my point is that a lot of what you promote leads to too much dropped space, which in an environment that Rocket League is now and where the game has continued to transition to, is going to get punished because of the mechanical ability of the players. The mechanical ability of the players is what's going to punish it, which is, I assume, why you're giving that take that a diamond with mechanics could be a pro. But the game sense element of that still holds that you have to be able to identify and correctly punish drop space. And that is why I am so adamantly against that take that a diamond with mechanics is a pro. Because they just wouldn't be. They wouldn't be able to punish accurately. So, as much chaos as there is that comes from professional play, they also do so many things well. And that's the point that I'm trying to make against your points that pros are worse than you thought and proving that they overcomplicate the game. They have to. They are creating opportunities for their team that the people playing behind the ball are able to exploit. So your general points that you have made so far are Vatira you say he's the best. I again don't quite agree, but the points that you are giving that make him the best is that he's playing with good setups in open space and taking possession of the ball when he attacks. So he is covering his space, keeping up pressure in covering that space, which is what lets him do what he does. Then what you're getting on a Tau for is playing in front of the ball, which is leading to him being maybe a little more awkward, but it's also what's creating these opportunities. I feel like that's the piece that's missing from your coaching and from these points, is that a lot of the time, the person playing in front of the ball is a key component in creating the pressure because it threatens more than just an individual play from whoever's collecting the ball. Then you review your own replay. There are a lot of points made in those sections. And before you say, oh, you only watched so much of it, I have gone through almost all of both of these videos at this point. At the time of leaving my first comment, I had watched 5 to 10 minutes. And I had already seen enough to see that you were missing a lot, which is what I tried to get across, but I didn't quite get across through text, which is why I'm making a video. And then in the second video, you address a lot of the comments. You give a lot of answers to them, but a lot of times as well, you just kind of are laughing at the comments and kind of brushing them off. You give some evidence to it, but don't directly address everything. Which specifically with my comment, where is it? Saying that you misunderstand the game again because you have a lot of good things and understand a lot of things wrong. And then in the time that I managed to watch, where a player is positioned, is in a position, makes a good play, and then you are saying, oh, this is a terrible play because of this, this, and this, when in reality those points have no substance. There is nothing behind those points. One of those examples is somewhere in this Atto section. I'm not sure exactly where. There's a play where Atto is up along the left side wall, playing support of his first man, and you are saying, oh, he's playing too far forwards, he's playing too aggressive, he's opening up, but there's no threat of anything going into the space that him playing aggressive it would be leaving open. It was a play where he's playing aggressively because the defender is backwards and his first man is already on the ball. There is no threat there is no threat of a deep clear. He has no reason to play back. So he's allowed to play aggressively because of that fact that that space is not open. And then, yeah, the rest of this, the 3 out of 10 coach at best, yes, that comes across as aggressive, but without any real evidence, there is, very little for me to have been able to say in that first video that you had anything, like, a lot going for you. In this second video, you showed that you know more what you're talking about, but again, there were some things that I believe were misunderstood. And then the targeted video wanting to go after pros and shit talk to boost your ego. Again, aggressive, but also when you are bullying, this section is literally called Bullying Atto, and you spend the first roughly 4 to 5 minutes of this section of your own replay saying, "Oh my God, Atto never would have done this. Look how good our passing play is. The pros don't do this. We're so good. We're doing this so well." Like, that's not coaching. That's going over a replay and just talking about what you're doing well and showing off the best parts of your gameplay. That's not coaching, which is what I was trying to get at in this. And then despite the fact that you do nothing after put on the field, most people wouldn't. But that's why most people aren't going around shit-talking all the pros. I know full well that I wouldn't do anything if put on field with the pro players. Which, I'll pull up, because I'll even show off, I'm not the highest of high-ranked players. These are my peaks. These are my all-time peaks. I reached the high end of GC2 in 3v3. I was a 1600 2v2 player. That is as far as I made it in ranked. But I also have taken games off of 22 and 2300 teams in RLCS. In Start GG, the NA Qualifier 3, which was the only one one of the only two that I actually played with a team. In Qualifier 3 here, I might cut down some of this, I might not. In the Open Qualifier, day 1, we were in the same bracket as the Muffin Men. We were in this pool. And the team that we played had just lost to the Muffin Men. 2-1, mind you. They took a game off of the Muffin Men. Now, are two of these players past their prime? Yes. Are they a late day 3 team that made it into some of the main events? Also, yes, they are still a very high level team. But you will see that this team that they played against is Kamikaze, Sam NTY, and 21. Kamikaze is a roughly 2300 MMR rank A player, and both of these players, both of his teammates are, I believe, B+, and around 2100 to 2000 to 2100 MMR. And then if we look down here, we played them, and we took a game off of them. We won this game 2-1. We just put in 1-0 just so that they got the games right. But this team, at the time, I was signed up as a coach. I wasn't even meant to play. It was me, Dre, in 1800, and Chicken Yo-Yo in 1800. So I just showed I was peak 1675, and 2 1800s taking a game off of 2300, 2100, rank A, B+ to A, just because we're keeping up space and playing well as a team. So am I saying there's a huge gap between a normal player and a pro? No, there isn't. Because once you reach a certain point, the game sense doesn't change a ton. The difference at the high level, yes, is the mechanics. But there's a certain level of game sense that has to happen first. If a GC3 player, a GC3 player is given Zen mechanics, yeah, he's going to be at the very minimum a rank A to bubble player, a late day 3 a team that is a lot more like someone like you know, Incorrect or Plot Twist or Gbuffo, Deleted XD. These teams that make it late and make it into some of the events but aren't necessarily top teams. Because the game sense doesn't even change a ton from getting up to the top. At the top, the difference, a lot of the times, is the mechanics and the ability to play together as a team. So, while I agree with some of your points about how mechanics are taking over the game and how playing behind the ball and playing slower are good, it's for a different reason. That is the point that I'm trying to get across. So, general summary I've already gone through the points, but general summary is that any team play style can work under the right circumstances. You just need to keep up good communication and good fundamentals. Good space coverage has to be present in whatever rotation it is that you want to run. In that K-Corp versus G2 series that I pulled up, they played somewhat similar. But if you go watch the grand final, you'll see G2 play that same aggressive play style, and you'll see BDS play slower, more passive, more balanced, and they end up winning that series. Is that saying that play style will always win? Not necessarily. But is it saying that both are valid play styles? Yeah. Play however your team is comfortable with your own skill sets. As long as your communication is good and you keep good fundamentals like your space coverage, your boost management, your rotation pathing, not overextending for demos or being overly physical, and on the other side of that, being attentive to demos and not getting beat by demo plays like that. Those are things that need to happen in any team, regardless of how you want to play. But any team play style can work for that reason, that those things are present and you're making the players more comfortable and to play to their full potential. So that's where I'm ending this one. If there's need for another one, I probably won't make another follow-up video on this topic. I will if I absolutely have to, but I would really rather not, because I don't like just making arguing videos. The next video I'm planning is a team showcase of the team that should not have been at Worlds. Oxygen and their run and why they were able to do what they could on such short notice that they were going to be playing. Obviously, they didn't have as much time to scrim as the other teams. So that's what I want to take a look at, and that's what I plan on doing for the next video. So keep an eye out for that. Should be coming out sometime in the next week or so, week and a half. At that point, we'll see more pro-level breakdown and try to get a little more in-depth with how they work as a team. But this also should be a good base level understanding of how the game works and why different fundamentals need to happen in a team. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.